like killing it. Like how?
Not all.
I mean, we got women at this table out earning us. So.
Yeah, and
Just saying.
and like women are out graduating men at college, so it's like they're doing better in school, like not going to jail as much.
Like,
so it's like women are kind of killing it.
60, I think it's like 60-40 in universities.
I heard it was worse. I heard 70-30. I'm not 100%.
I guess it depends on the university, but anyone?
I think that we do live in a patriarchy, but patriarchy does not necessarily mean that men have it better. I'm pretty sure the patriarchy pretty much fucks over everyone, and we're seeing that in society. And it really sucks because I think the patriarchy hurts everyone. They fuck over everyone.
But what is the patriarchy? What is that? How do you define it?
So I think how I would define patriarchy is pretty much, I guess, I don't know if it's a policy. I guess it's a philosophy where that positions men in a higher place of power with certain expectations, but it just so happens, I mean, in my opinion, and those expectations actually harm men.
Okay.
I would say for me, my definition of patriarchy is that it's this idea or this construction of gender roles that are intended to benefit men. Intended to. I'm not saying that it always does. I think it often hurts men. But it's the creation of these gender roles, these boxes and expectations for people based on gender.
Are we going around right now? Or?
Sort of, kind of, a little bit. Well, I mean, what I've often seen, I think the definition is like a system or society or government in which men hold the power and women are largely excluded from it. Or I often hear a society built by men for men.
I don't think it's always for men. I think that's an extremist view.
Okay.
So I think I would agree with that definition, but with the caveat that with I guess because power is not like, you get power and it's completely harm-free. There are so many stories in media that tell you, hey, this is what happens when you have power. It's hard. So and men suffer from that.
Yeah, patriarchal concepts are ingrained into our culture. So you mentioned, for example, that men commit suicide at higher rates. I think that's an incredibly sad phenomenon, and I think that it's because of patriarchy. These expectations, these gendered expectations, result in men not being able to talk about their feelings with each other or reach out for emotional support. And that results in higher rates of suicide.
Because the patriarchal definition of power is being independent and not having a support network and thinking that all success comes from the individual, when in reality is a lot of success is made from having a support network.
I think it's the patriarchy is kind of what I consider to be the apex fallacy. You're looking at a very, very, very small percentage of men who are at the very top and who do probably have a disproportionate amount of power and influence, but you're disregarding 99% plus of the ordinary man who has absolutely no power. And it's just you're looking at the very top percentage of men.
Are you defining power based on how much people are suffering?
I mean, power is financial, influential, political, mainly.
Because I feel when it comes to the whole because I don't think that saying that a patriarchy exists actually, I don't think it actually downplays the pain of regular men. I think that it's evidence that men are suffering. Back to the suicidal rate, I think the patriarchal definition of power is having not having expressing no feelings, being suffering by yourself, being independent and doing all of that. But I feel patriarchy established that, and I don't know if men established that, but that's terrible for men.
Patriarchy established that, which was intended to serve men.
But
Yeah,
the patriarchy isn't a social construct. You do realize human beings are almost 300,000 years old, and it's we had to survive for all that time, and without technology, without walls and roofs over our heads and electricity and water. It's there's hundreds of thousands of years of history that you're just kind of not accounting for, in why things are the way they are.
Well, I
think
wouldn't.
you have to
I'm
adjust
sorry.
for technology. I think it's important to adjust for technology.
Adjust how? Like, how would you say? Like, what would adjusting be
I think
to
it's
you?
important to not entirely compare like apples to apples with like what happened in the past, and adjust with like different rationale. Just because we have a lot more advancements right now, where we don't need like you're not gonna go out and like get me a steak, right? Like, I mean, like from a
I see
live
what you're saying,
cow.
like times are changing and like things have advanced, but it's like I don't believe that humans' biology will change just because like a smartphone was invented and like we have internet now. Like our core instincts are still based on hundreds of thousands of years of evolution.
Yeah, where people
Yeah.
protect each other. You were saying something?
I was gonna say that I think the patriarchy has like it's not a social construct, but it has very social consequences, and that's what I was mainly talking about.
The thing is that like I'm still trying to really, because everyone has a different sense of what the patriarchy is. It's sort of this nebulous term. So, like, what is it? What is the patriarchy?
I think it's a type of philosophy.
But what is that?
The philosophy that men are deserving of more power, so therefore men should be granted more power.
Which men? Because very few men have power.
So the people who made patriarchy is that 0.00001% of men who are exceeding. And like, yeah, I would agree that like the patriarchy also fucks over the regular men. And like when women say that a patriarchy exists, we are not trying to dismiss the pain of the regular man.
But so isn't it more a class thing than it is a gender thing? Like it's the people in power and like
Well, I mean,
the
I guess-
elites.
Yeah, like, I mean, it kind of depends on what kind of philosophy that you subscribe to. Like, your line of thinking is actually somewhat similar to what it would be similar to Marxism, because Marxism would say that, you know, when it comes to, you know, suffering, it's class struggle. And, like, things like gender or whatever is part of the secondary structure, so it's not direct.
Well, I would say this when it comes to class. I would say that a poor man and a poor woman have far more in common than does a rich man and a rich, sorry, I just butchered this. Hold on, I fucked it up.
It's okay. I
That's
didn't
very-
completely hear
that's
it. You can
very
totally
base of
repeat
you.
it.
That's very socialist of you.
No, well, I often hear it said like
Working
I
class
often,
hero.
No, I often hear it said that a poor black man and a poor white man have far more in common than does a rich white. Oh my God, I've already butchered it. Than does a poor black man and a rich black man.
I see what you're saying.
Marxist Brian?
Yeah, so it's like if y'all both got money, then race doesn't matter all of a sudden, basically.
That's a pretty
Yeah.
Marxist take, actually, because, you know, things like race, religion, spirituality, like, when it comes to Marx, he's like, no, that's not the source of struggle. It's money. Hence, big capitalism.
Eric, can you pull up the USSR national anthem?
What?
We got.
Oh no.
Why not the
Yeah.
Communist Manifesto?
Yeah.
It's a really
Oh,
short
oh,
read.
Brian's a
Communism.
class solidarity, y'all.
In this 40 hours.
What the fuck?
I'd
But,
rather have a little like unfairness than like just like everyone getting the same, which never turns out that way. Yeah.
But like when it comes to patriarchy, right? I guess the point I'm trying to make is that it's not like, yes, maybe it is men who do occupy some of these higher positions of power, politics, corporations. I mean, there's a few reasons. There's reasons why that could be beyond theorized sexism. But for example, I don't know if you guys have heard. There's this greater male variability theory, which states that men and women, on average, are equivalent in terms of intelligence. However, when you look at the what's it called, the
Bell curve. Or
sort of a
or
bell
the
curve thing.
extremes,
If you
yeah.
look at the extremes, you have more men with genius IQs than you do have women, but you also have a ton of you have much more stupid men than you have stupid women. So on both sides, you have men who are just like insanely high IQs. There's more of them than there are women. And there's also much more men with insanely low IQs than there are women with insanely low IQs.
Interesting.
The average is the same. The average is the same. It's called the greater male variability hypothesis or theory or something like that.
Would you guys fuck a feminist?
Yeah, I'd do it. For the
If she
Well,
was
I-
hot.
Like if she was really hot, right?
Just a one night stand.
Pussy is
Yeah.
pussy.
I'd fuck an egalitarian, but a feminist, that's... I
You-
don't know, bro.
yeah.
Probably most of the women I
You
sleep
have
with
very
are
good
feminists.
principles, Brian. I got to give you props. Yeah.
I mean, it depends though, because a lot of women don't even really. If you ask a woman, like if you ask two women what feminism means, they'll give you different answers.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So like, and a lot of women will just like tokenly identify as feminist, and they're just like, oh, I believe in gender equality. Well, here's the thing: feminism isn't about, hot take of the night, feminism is not an equality movement.
Yes. I agree.
Feminism is in its most charitable sense, it's a woman's advocacy movement. It's not a equality movement because, and we've sort of touched on this, where women do not stand to benefit from a type of equality, feminists will not fight for said equality. I don't know if I articulated that correctly, but
I feel like feminism would actually fight for, hey, is this going to benefit men and women, and is it ethical? Because like, I guess the tokenizing, I feel like that's not true feminism. Because if you're gonna tokenize like that, you're gonna get a bunch of men getting mad at you, and then that just ruins the whole purpose. Like I feel like feminism really is an advocate for everyone. Everyone.
Feminism is a women's advocacy movement, and there's nothing wrong with women's advocacy or women's rights, but to try to portray feminism as an equality movement is on its face it's erroneous.
I would agree with that, but I feel like feminism is not like, oh yeah, women advocacy, dump men. It's more like, we're gonna support women and support men. It doesn't mean we're gonna, dump on them. It's like, we're helping women, and then helping women also helps the men. Everyone wins.
So I'll just add to that real quick. So like in scenarios where women would not stand to benefit from equality, feminists will not pursue said equality. And actually, to the contrary, feminists will actually fight to maintain inequality if that inequality comes to the detriment of women.
That is not feminism to me.
Or if the inequality benefits women. I might have said that wrong. Whatever.
I mean, feminism is already hurting men. Like, there's like affirmative action, preferential hiring. Like, that's a real thing already.
Here's another one. In Florida, there was a bill that was attempted to get passed where it was for shared custody of children. So a presumption upon, like say there's a divorce, a presumption that it should be 50-50 split custody. That to me sounds like equality. Both the father and the mother get shared custody. It's the default. Whereas oftentimes in court systems, custody defaults to the mother. In Florida, one of the leading feminist organizations, it's called the National Organization for Women, probably the leading feminist organization in the country, fought against that because it would technically come to the detriment of women to not get primary custody.
I actually am going through something personal with that. I actually think it's terrible that, because like when women get primary custody, it doesn't allow people to critically think about whether the mother is the suitable parent. I think custody should be given to whichever parent is the most healthy for the kids. And if you just assume that it's the mother, like that's not fair. And if it doesn't benefit, let's think about the kids here, man. Like it's the kids that are going through this. And like you can have perfectly capable fathers not get custody, and that's not fair, and the mother could be abusive. I completely agree with your take on that. And for a woman to be like, oh, if women don't benefit if she doesn't get primary custody, that's bullshit.
The modern day feminists are actively fighting against that. So
That's not a feminist for me. That's a bitch.
Yeah, you go, girl.
Well, it's kind of like the No True Scotsman. Like, well, that's not my feminism. But like, if you look at the major feminist organizations, they are fighting against a lot of these things that would give or that would bring equality, but they're fighting against it.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
Word?
It's usually the more like extreme side of feminism as well.
Yeah,
They
like
have the loudest voice, like you mentioned earlier.
yeah, that's fucked
but
up.
okay, but the core tenet though of feminism is patriarchy theory. That is a core tenet of feminism. And by the way, I reject the patriarchy theory. It is just that, a theory, and theories are not necessarily truth or fact. So I reject it. So
I accept the theory, but the way that certain women, if you were saying is correct, have applied it, that's not the way to apply it. Because I think the patriarchy exists, but since it does exist, at least in my opinion, I think it hurts everyone. And like, honestly, I really wish that feminism would not be construed as like, oh, women get all the benefits and men just suffer. Because if women got all of the benefits, that fucks everybody anyway, I feel like everyone should win.
well, could I potentially challenge you to, instead of defining yourself as a feminist, define yourself as an egalitarian? If anyone here considers themselves a feminist,
Would you mind looking up the definition of feminism for me?
Sure, I can Google it. Feminism. The advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. So
Equality's kind of
that's kind of what I said. The advocacy of women's rights.
equality is kind of a interesting term because there's equality and then there's equity. Because equality, for me personally, it's kind of tough for me to like support it sometimes, because it's like sometimes if you do just equal all the way around, it doesn't allow for critical thinking.
I don't like equity.
Yeah, I don't like equity. That's
I
equality.
believe
That's equality of
in
outcome.
equality of opportunity,
Yeah.
but equality of
the
outcome.
scary
that's-
thing is our society is trending towards equity. That's literally like preferential hiring. Like they're literally just trying to force it to be equal, and I don't agree with that.
But could I challenge you guys to consider yourselves egalitarians instead of feminists?
Sure. What sources would you recommend? Like, are there any books that you would recommend on egalitarianism?
Well, I feel like a lot of this stuff is typically either viewed from a male lens or a female lens. But I did do an interview with. He's more like. I'd say he's an egalitarian, but I did an interview with Warren Farrell. He used to be a feminist, but now he's more of a male advocate. He wrote a book, The Boy Crisis. He's been interviewed by Oprah and all these people. His book, The Boy Crisis, is pretty good. The Myth of Male Power. There's a whole bunch of books on the topic.
Sure, I would be glad to read up on it if it gives me more information. I will say though, with the whole labels thing, I think at the end of the day, a label is a generalization. I'm really glad that I got to speak out on what I personally believe. If it matches egalitarianism, cool. But I'm not gonna focus so much on labeling and just kind of be more, specific to what I want, to what I support. So yeah, I'll actually look that up. Thank you.
Yeah, word. Wow, we really kind of started talking
Yeah,
about that.
that went off on the deep end.
How do we bring it back to blowjobs now? How do we start talking about?
What's your favorite kink?
What's y'all's
Go.
body count? Go.
Oh,
Oh man, I was gonna ask that.
body count? Yeah, we can do body count. Here, why don't we start with you? We'll go around the table.
I guess 20.